Hey folks, today just taking a look at some things that I picked up from the San Antonio Train Show and Jamboree. First up, just a few shots of the show itself. I apologize for the angle of the camera and some of the shots, but this train show is kind of small. Spring Creek Model Trains is there, they're probably the big vendor there. But there was a lot to see, a lot of neat items on the show floor, some overpriced, some good deals, I would argue. Couple of layouts. Like I said, this is a small show, so there's not a whole lot going on, but it was a good time. So why don't we take a look at the things I picked up. First up is this, of course, a decoder buddy. Now I don't have to order one, I just picked it up from Spring Creek Model Trains and at the show, and this will be used in the Acela, so I can add additional lighting functions, some flashing ditch lights specifically. Next up is this Union Pacific hopper car. It's a more modern looking car than what I typically get, but this was at the table for the main model railroad club that sponsors the train show, and it was only $5. It needs a little bit of work. Needs to be upgraded with some new metal wheels, and I think the ends of the car are popping out, so I'm gonna take it apart, add some weight, but this will be a good candidate for weathering and some other techniques I'd like to try. Next is this Bachmann UK J72 tank locomotive. There's a gentleman who goes to this show each year who collects a lot of UK Hornby Bachmann, and he's every time I talk with him, it's a wonderful conversation. His name's Larry, and he's been upgrading his model to DCC, so a lot of his older stuff he sells off for pretty good prices. The Pullman passenger cars I picked up a few years ago were from him. And this little model is a split chassis Bachmann. You can see the valve gear's a little messed up. But the model itself was advertised as a non-runner, $10, and I figured, you know, this would look nice on a shelf. And it looks in good shape. I'll reset the coupling rods so they're correct. I think the quartering is off, but $10, I figured, why the heck not? The last thing I picked up, also from Spring Creek Model Trains, is this ScaleTrains ET44 GEVo Union Pacific locomotive with Loc sound installed. I paid $260 for it, and I was looking at getting an ES44 off of ScaleTrains' website, but those go for about $285. I've been wanting models that, you know, represent the locomotives, the trains that I see around Austin, passing through when I do rail fanning, and I figured this looks like a great candidate, and why not go ahead and pick it up. And I've been looking at getting a ScaleTrains model for a little while, so I want to see what the hype was all about. So after taking a look at the manual, we'll crack open the box. It's a very nice box. So once opened up, we can take a look. It has some additional axle bearing covers. That's one thing I really like about this model, is the rotating bearing covers. You get a bunch extra in case they fall out, which is really nice. This is a very weighty model. There's a lot of heft to this. And we'll just remove some of the packing protecting the railings. You can see some of the railings were coming out a little loose on the body. That was an easy fix. I just popped them back in. I'm not going to do a review, but let's take a look at some of the extra details. The cab will get a crew eventually. The front has a lot to look at. There's etch grills on the sides. It is missing a lift ring on the side of the body. That's the only negative I can really say about this. I've contacted ScaleTrains about maybe getting a replacement, but it's the weekend and haven't heard back from them yet. But there's just so much to look at. So why don't we go ahead and put this on the test track, fire it up for the very first time on camera, and see what it sounds like. The one thing about this model is it's very loud out of the box, so I have since lowered the volume by probably about half. I'm probably going to install a Scale sound system speaker into this model. They make a dedicated speaker for this model and some others that share a very similar speaker profile, and I like the deeper resonating sound that those speakers have, so I'll probably do that in the next few weeks. You will notice when I have the bell ringing and I press the horn, the bell will also come on and you'll hear this double bell. That was an issue with the software, and a firmware update I think has been released to fix that. So once I get this on the local programmer, that firmware update should fix it, so I'm not really worried about that. And here you can see those rotating axle covers a little bit more closely. That's a feature I really like, I'll be honest, it's really cool. So that's gonna do it. It was a fun time at the show, and spent a lot more money than I had anticipated. But you know what? I've got a birthday coming up, and this ScaleTrains model is a little early birthday gift to myself, and I'm really happy to have it. The ground lights are cool, the little walkway lights are really neat, all the details on the pilot, and just everything about it. It's really nice. I'd like to get a few more of these modern diesels, maybe a BNSF for some foreign power, and lash it up to maybe a dozen auto racks or something is kind of what I have in mind. It's a really nice model. This isn't a review or anything, I'm just excited to have it. But I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.